Welcome to Eye of the Storm. Never forget that we are the storm because we are standing together organizing a revolutionary movement. I have a very special guest with us today, Hernando Arce. Welcome, Hernando.
Thank you for having me, Eye of the Storm. It's a great pleasure to be here today with you.
Yes, I'm so excited you're here. So, Hernando is a citizen journalist in Texas, in San Antonio, in fact, and so wanted to kind of bring him into the mix and share his experience about what he's been dealing with in a different state, in a different city and county than here in California and other areas. And so, before we get into that, let's go ahead and bring our Heavenly Father into the mix so he can guide us through this. So. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you now. And as always, I'm just so thankful for this opportunity to come before the people and to share information with them that you need them to hear, Father. And I just thank you so much for my guest and for his boldness and standing in the gap and doing things that most people don't want to do, Father, but he knows it's so important. I just thank you for laying that upon his heart to do, Father, and for giving him the strength and courage to continue to do that. And I ask for you to continue to embolden him and strengthen him and give him all of the necessities that he needs to continue on this journey, Father, whether it be monetary or just information that is just shared with him, whatever it is that will help him to uncover more as we find ourselves in this border machine. It is very well oiled. And I just thank you for all of the other ones that are standing up and sharing information that the mainstream media won't tell. And may you just guide us through all of this information. May you have those that are listening be the ones that need to hear it, Father. And I just thank you for every moment that you give us. In your precious name, Jesus. Amen. My
Amen.
dog was wanting to chime in there.
He was agreeing.
I know. He's like, amen to that. So thank you for being here. I think it's so important. They're trying to play right now for us to be sharing all the things that are going on because it's not something that the media wants to tell the real story, and I feel like it takes people like us to kind of come in and really share things that aren't being shared. And so I just want to know what your experience is and kind of, I guess, let's start with what brought you into wanting to cover this.
Well, yeah, thank you. And there's a lot of your followers that don't know who I am, so I'll just
Yes,
start with a
please.
recap from the beginning. I'm a citizen journalist. I'm based here out of San Antonio, Texas, which is 2 hours from the border. Uh, I started this here journey of journalism actually 10 years ago when I lived in New York City. I lived in a neighborhood that got inundated with illegal aliens to the point where I didn't even recognize my town anymore. And what I pulled out my iPhone. It was a older version of iPhone, I think an iPhone 4. But I pulled out my phone and I just started recording the streets of Queens, New York City, and with the backdrop of all these vendors in the streets looking like a third world country. And I said, Audrey, I said, I got to get out of here. I got to go somewhere more sane. And that was Texas, because of that rugged individualism of come and take it, don't tread on me, like on every bumper sticker on a pickup truck. Unfortunately, to find out 5 miles from where I live, there's an American replacement center, as I coined it, where illegals are being processed. And so I had to go and get up and started recording again, pick up my iPhone 13 and start recording again. The travesty of what's happening to our country. And that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years. I've been at that center from the day they opened up. They've seen my face, these people there. And so,
and how did you, can I just ask, sorry, what did you just come across it and you noticed it? Or, I mean, how did you become aware of it? That it was actually, that's what it was.
Yeah, that's a good question. I was part of a patriot group prior to that. So we've always been patriotic in political issues and things like that. So when they had told me that the center was open, that's when I went ahead and pulled out my phone, started recording there. Yeah.
Okay, so continue. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. I just thought I had a question. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. And then since then, I've gone down the rabbit hole. Found that center was sold just 6 months prior to the invasion because it was owned by the city of San Antonio. It was a processing center where you pay your utility bills, CPS building they called it. Everybody knew that. And then the city sells it to one of their top donors for the mayor Nuremberg. His name is Paul and Kevin Curry. And they are very prominent developers here in San Antonio. Matter of fact, just a mile from here, there's what they call the Pearl Brewery. And it's one of these huge multi-acre shopping areas that was remade. It was an old brewery, and they made it into a beautiful shopping center. So these people have money, and
Lots of
they,
money. Yeah.
the city sold it to these people, and then this their LLC, their corporation, went ahead and rented it back to the city. Yeah, for $113,000 a month in
Oh
rent,
my God.
but to process these illegals. And so, I started peeling back the onion, and that's just one of the stories. And then from there, we wind up finding out that the city handed off the day-to-day operations to three major NGOs, and that was the Catholic Charities of San Antonio, another one called an Endeavors Family, and the third one is called Interfaith Welcome Coalition. Now there are other ones, but those are the three main ones that operate the facility. It's a 24-hour operation, Audrey.
Yeah. So it's, they're doing that here in San Diego as well. They're not necessarily like flip flopping like that. It's a little weird to sell it and then lease it back,
Right.
but they are taking surplus land and deeming it so that, they were going to try and give it to the city in San Diego for affordable housing. It was an old California Highway Patrol office, and it's actually a Border Protection Division unit that they were saying this is surplus. They need to move over to a new area. And so they gave the city 120 days to decide if they wanted to use it for affordable housing. And where it's at, it's an industrial area, so you would never put it there. So then they gave it up to bid to people in this city, and it was Jewish Family Services that came forward, and they said that this was the best interest for the state to lease it to them and for migrants. And so, they always kind of try and make up some kind of excuse as to why they're doing it, that this is going to better things. And in reality, it's just destroying stuff, like you're saying. And, I noticed, like, do you notice that there's one NGO that gets the money and then distributes it out, or are all three of those getting money? Have you seen anything like?
Well, listen, as a citizen journalist, I didn't study journalism. I didn't study researching things. So thank God I have a lot of great followers that send me links, and I go down that rabbit hole of NGOs, right?
Yeah.
And that's really tedious work. It's tedious because there's so many documents, hundreds of pages to go through. But I've been able to uncover the money trail, follow the money. Interesting is that Endeavors has been able to somehow hide themselves from the money trail somewhat. I say that lightly because they got caught 2 years ago with a report from James O'Keefe, one of their executives. I forgot his name, but he got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. He was a former DHS employee, and so since then they've been trying to keep themselves out of the limelight. Every time that the local Marxist papers does a report about the place, they don't never mention Endeavors. But we know through Homeland and Health and Human Services, which is part of the Department of Refugee Resettlement, where the children are involved, hundreds of thousands of children, they're getting their funding, I believe, through HHS, not through FEMA.
Correct.
So when you look at that, Endeavors has gotten $3 billion in the last 4 years, the billions, in the billions. This is just one NGO because they have their main camp for the children is in Pecos, city of Pecos in Reeves County, which is about 2 hours from here. And so, putting the pieces together, they're hiding their funding through HHS. Another thing is United Way. Who would thought that the Boys Club of America, the Girls Club of America, this so Americana, is involved in this? They've been taking millions of dollars, and they funnel their money through many. They're like the middleman of NGOs. They get a big lump sum of $5 million, and then if you look at their IRS 990 forms, they just shuffle the money to other NGOs. So they're kind of like a clearinghouse for NGOs, and they're responsible for the food that goes to the American Replacement Center. They funnel like millions of dollars to San Antonio food banks, which, by the way, San Antonio Food Bank just got $5 million in their last SSP program. That stands for Shelter and Services Program, which is run by FEMA, which is part of the Department of Homeland Security. Audrey.
It's and it's Audra. It's okay. I'm not, but it's all right. It's just kind of sad to see, because when I was looking at FEMA, I was like, wow, you guys are getting quite a lot of money, like in many different categories, which was interesting. And then for us, it's like, it's just half of it's going to Catholic Charities and half of it's going to the county.
Mm.
But like with the Catholic Charities, like with Endeavors, they filed for bankruptcy, and so you can't follow their money
Endeavors is
because
filed for bankruptcy.
the Catholic Charities did, because they have a bunch of
Oh,
victims
okay.
that they have to pay off.
Mm.
I'm just saying it's like similar to Endeavors, where you can't follow the money very well.
Right,
They try
right,
and
right,
hide it.
right.
And it's interesting because they then split it with Jewish Family Services
Mm.
most of the time, but then they delegate it out to all of these other NGOs that need to
Mhm.
help.
Mm.
Now, have you been by the child where they're holding the kids in your area, in that Pico or whatever?
Pico,
Have you been?
Texas.
Hmm.
I have not been to that camp, but I have been to the largest camp in the world for uh, child sex trafficking. We are the number one sex trafficking country now in the world, thanks to
Yeah.
Department of Homeland Security and Alejandro Mayorkas. This was located in the Rio Grande Valley section of Texas, which is South Texas, which is Brownsville and McAllen, which is where they come in through Montemores and Reynosa. That's the Mexican side. So there's a former Super Walmart, which is the big
Yeah.
boys
Oh,
Walmart.
yeah.
You heard about that one, right?
Yeah.
That was turned into a child camp. They hold up to 2,000 young boys because they separate the little girls from the little boys. Thank God,
Okay. Yeah.
right? Thank God.
Yeah.
But that one is the mega of the all megas, internationally renowned sex trafficking camp in the world, Audra.
Yes. Thank you. um, it's they were, when in San Diego, they were housing them at a convention center a few years ago, and then now it's kind of, there's not necessarily a big place that they're making you aware of. I know it's at one of the DHS, like Border Patrol facilities,
Hmm.
but it's something that they're very keeping under wraps and not wanting. And I understand that, but it's like, when that they're trafficking these children, that they disappear, that they just like, are written off the map. It's really disturbing, because I find that, instead of wanting to stop it, they really just sit there and try and facilitate more of it.
Hmm.
Right, 'cause it's like, wouldn't that be a weird, like, how do you think it's normal for children to go, "I'm seeking asylum in another country," at all these different ages, right? Say 6 months or 5 years old. I mean, they're not going to be doing that, but instead these people act like, "No, we're gonna take them in and we're gonna really help them." And
Hmm.
no, you're not. You're just, HHS is gonna sit here and traffic them all over the place to
Right.
nefarious individuals. And,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really sad to me to think about that.
Yeah.
As it's very convoluted, and people don't want to talk about it. I feel like it's something that, because it's such a like touchy subject, that they would
Hmm.
rather act like it doesn't happen. And I find, like, don't, when it's in your face, like, you're very close to it, so it's like, I'm sure you drive down the street and you would just notice it. Do you think other people notice it as much, or do you think they just kind of drive by, have no idea what that is, don't necessarily care, and just kind
Hmm.
of go about their day being none the wiser?
Well, that's a good question because right across the street from the ARC, as we call it here, I call it here. There's a shopping center, right? There's
Hmm.
stores. There's a pizza place, and sometimes I'll get in the mood, and I don't do it too often because I'm really not happy with the responses I get when I talk to people coming in and out of their cars, going to the shopping center. I say I have my press pass and my camera. I said, hey, I'm a journalist. Just a quick question. What's your opinion about this here happening with these? I call them migrants, so they don't get too
Yeah,
pissed off.
right.
But what's your opinion? And it's a shame. Like 8 out of 10 times they don't care or they don't know about it. Maybe 1 out of 10 would say, "Yeah, this is not right. This is fucked up, and it needs to be closed down." But you know, these Americans, unfortunately, they're just stuck with their Netflix and they're eating their Chipotle burrito,
Right.
and they're not awake yet, or they just have to hit under in the sand. Um, and another thing is that these NGOs are all Catholic, are faith-based organizations
Yeah.
getting paid by the federal government. That's what the left calls uh, church and state.
Yeah.
The left always argue separation of church and state.
Right.
This here invasion, as you call it, is operated between church and state.
Yeah.
Where's the left?
Right.
It's silence.
Well, and it's sad because they're using God as a, like, reason why they're doing it. Like, we need to do this. It's like a humanitarian thing.
Mm,
And in that, it's like they're doing the complete opposite of what would be what they're saying. And I think that a lot of people don't necessarily, I mean, do you talk to the people about, is it like the money that is coming from them that's, because sometimes that'll make people upset. I mean, especially when they're in, everybody's struggling right now. Everybody's
Mhm.
having a hard time just surviving and making
Yeah.
ends meet.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because most of the comments, and I read every comment on my X account. I have like 26,000 followers, whatever. I read every comment, and a lot of them they kind of compare it to what happened in Maui in that town. I
Right.
forgot the name of the town, but
Lahaina.
every Lahaina, right?
Yeah.
They got $700.
Yeah.
American citizens, if they're lucky, they got $700. And here we're giving billions of dollars for
Yeah.
this invasion. It's just mind blowing.
Right, and they're
It's funny, real
defunding
fast.
everything, right? Like, everything is in a deficit, so they're like, "We have to pull money from here and pull money
Yeah.
from there," and I'm like, "Funny, this only gets money thrown at it, more
Mm,
and more
yeah.
and more," and it's like, so that's where you can tell that it's,
Yeah.
very well organized too, because,
Mhm.
these people also are making money off of, like, each person that they help. So
Mhm.
when you see these NGOs and they're really, like, wanna get to these people, right? And it's
Mhm.
like you think that it would be because they wanna help and that's what they say, but it's
Yeah.
like, no, it's you have monetary gain that you're getting
Mhm.
from actually engaging with these individuals. So as much as you wanna say that it's like to help them, sure, you're kinda helping them along the way, but it's also helping you and putting money in your pocket,
It is.
you know?
It sure is, and I was. It's amazing. This all starts with the United Nations. I'm sure your followers are smart listeners. They're educated. They do their own research. We all know this all starts with the United Nations at the point and comes all the way down to your local county. And,
Yeah, have you been noticing that they've been implementing, I mean, I don't know if they're doing this in Texas, but they're really pushing the climate here in
mm,
California, and that comes from the
mm,
United Nations and the whole 15-minute cities and all of that stuff. I mean,
mm,
our council member or like board of supervisors will go and engage with the UN and, get all this information. And then when we tell them this is like a UN Agenda 21, 2030, 2050, because they keep having to move the, mile marker down, but this
mm,
is all being done from them, and they act like, again, they're trying to save the planet, right? But no, you're enslaving people in the process. So do you have those types of things as well going on in Texas? I mean, I wouldn't think so much,
mm.
because it's not as crazy as it is out here with that kind of stuff.
No, not really, Audra. Texas is an energy state. We produce a lot of
Right.
energy, gas and oil, petro. But they don't really push that narrative. They push more of the LGBTQ
Mm,
narrative big here. They just opened up a new department in San Antonio for that population of people. But no, nothing about saving the planet, uh,
right.
nothing like that.
Yeah, because I would think like it would help people understand how the United Nations is involved with that, because they want
Mm,
open borders. They don't think we should have any borders. They want like North and South America and can everything to all be one, so that we can just travel freely, which we're not. I mean, because they do want to enslave you. But do you
mm.
go to, or have you ever been to your board of supervisors?
I've been to a few council board meetings. I'm very busy. I have a full time job. Plus, I do this
Correct.
project on the side, so I don't really go to all of them. But the last time I went, the mayor said that I was a conspiracy theorist because of the ARC, American Replacement Center. He said I was a conspiracy theorist, and then they went ahead and funded the first 6 months, the first 8 months of the center being open. It was funded with COVID money, COVID
Yeah.
money. Yeah,
Yep.
millions of dollars of COVID money. And then what happens is they get reimbursed when the city came out of pocket for managing the place. And so it's been interesting following the money with the
Hmm.
FEMA that's running, it's cutting the checks that these people, they put in their bids, and now we're finally starting to see how I'm starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together. The
Yes.
city of San Antonio has received, I think, close to $20 million so far. Catholic Charities of San Antonio, somewhere around 30 million. And Endeavors is hard to track down how much they've gotten, but I'm sure it's up there as well through
Well, if they got it,
HHS.
oh, right. Well, and so if
Right,
they're getting it from there, you could probably find it in HHS's
right,
documents. So
right.
that's what I had to do with the Catholic Charities, was find
Mm,
out. I looked on FEMA and I was like, oh my gosh, well, no
mm,
wonder I can't find the money, because I'm not going to be able to look in your stuff. All I can
mm,
do is look at where they're sending it from other places and funneling it
mm,
to them.
Right.
And it's crazy how much they do that. So in San Diego, they also used COVID funds because what they did is, they were supposed to
Mm.
spend them all at a certain point in time. And
Right.
because that time was coming up, they put them into an evergreen fund is what they call it. And I'm like, funny, because that's like a Hillary Clinton type of evergreen. Is that what you mean? But
Mhm.
also it's like
Right.
evergreen, so you can use it for whatever you want. And so they
Mm.
took $6 million of that and gave it to South Bay Community Services, which is SBCS, to open a migrant transfer site.
Mhm.
And that only lasted 4 months, not even
Mm.
4 months. It's like a week shy. And they paid their employees 2 million of it.
Mm.
And it's like, that's $500,000 a month to
Mm.
pay how many employees did you have?
Right.
Like, it's crazy because I'm just asking too, if you had gone to the meetings at all, just to see how they
Mm.
talk about it and how they
Mhm.
deal with it, because that's where I find, like,
Mm.
tomorrow there's a board of supervisors meeting here in San Diego.
Mhm.
They're going to be discussing the $19.6 million that they got for the new transfer site, because they actually had to close it down. That's why they started doing street releases,
Mm.
and we're waiting for more money. And now they're actually
Right.
going to potentially be taking money from the county until they get
Right.
that money.
Reimbursed. Right.
And it's like, okay, but you're cutting from all this up. Like, how is it that you can always find money for that?
Mm. Mm.
And that's such a waste. $6 million in 4 months
Okay.
to, help, maybe they said
Six
like
million.
81,000 people.
$6 million in 4 months. So let's put the dots together. City of San Antonio spent about $4 million
Okay.
last year on overtime for these police officers that are at the center.
Right.
So,
Wow.
so it's starting to resemble a lot what you're seeing. Another thing, you just answered my question, was when your great videos. And thank God you started doing these videos, man, because we need more people like you to do these
Yes.
things, right? So I'm really proud of you. Um,
Thank you.
I saw CBP just dropping them off at the bus stop. Well, that makes sense now because there's no center, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
okay, so like here in San Antonio, we have a center. CBP is not dropping them off. CBP hands them off at the border in Texas to other
Okay.
NGOs. Faith-based one is one of them. Faith-based something, and then they get paid by the government for transportation, but then
Right.
they double dip and they tell the passengers with each of the illegal aliens it's $40 to $80 a seat to get to San
Oh my
Antonio.
God.
So they double dip the government, yeah,
Oh
and
my.
so they bus ride them up here through coach buses and 16 passenger white vans, those famous white
Yeah.
vans, which I have nightmares in night.
I know.
This has affected me psychologically every time I see a white van,
I
tinted
know.
windows,
Are you
right?
like, oh my gosh, or a bus? I'm like, there's another
Yeah.
bus. Or
Yeah. I'm like, okay, are there illegals in there? So I've
I
been affected
know.
psychologically,
Yes.
Audra. And so that's how it works. They come in through buses and bus and little vans, and then they're able to stay there at the center. Usually, when it was crazy last year in October, November, December, where it was bananas here, they were only allowed to stay there 15 days. After 15 days, they would kick you out. Another thing I uncovered through the CEO of the Catholic Charities of San Antonio, Mr. Antonio Fernandez. He likes to talk a lot. So unfortunately, he made a mistake. He told another rag paper here in San Antonio, communist Marxist paper, that he spent over $1 million a month the last quarter of last year on airline tickets for illegal aliens. $1 million a month.
Wow.
So he has it on paper, on record. And so I've been blasting it out from the rooftops that this is what's going on. No one else is reporting it. Since then,
Exactly.
January, like you said, they had to wait. CBP had to bring them to the bus stop because there was no money. What happened here was that the charities ran out of money. They would only give them tortillas with no protein inside, chicken, nothing like that. Just plain tortillas, coffee. That was it for 3 days for 3 course for 3 meals a day, and they stopped paying for the airline tickets, and that's when the illegals had to figure out how to get their own purchase their online tickets. But at the same time, the Biden regime had closed the spigot with the Mexican president from 100%, spigot power to maybe down to 30%.
Right.
But we're starting to see it trickle back up. So if that makes sense to you,
Yeah. So that's what I was going to ask too. Like, so are you seeing more of an increase again? Because
yeah.
it's what they'll do is they like shift it around. Like, even the places here, oh, we're going to come through here now. And then all of a sudden it's here. So it's hard to follow because you're
Mhm.
like, where are you today? And they get a heads up too because of where they're going to be.
Mhm.
and because all of a sudden the border patrol will show up as soon as these people are walking down, and this NGO will show up, and it's like, how did you guys all know, like,
mm, yeah,
that's going to happen, unless
mm.
it's all very well organized and you're telling people like to go to this one and not that one. So did you see a decrease, and now it's been kind of increasing again, and when was that?
Well, I believe, and I have no evidence of it, but I believe, and eventually it'll come out that the NGOs along the borders are communicating with the cartel in
Yeah.
Mexico. Got it, 100%. We just have to get the receipts of that, right?
Right.
And someday we'll get the receipts. People like you and me will get the receipts.
That's right.
Uh, Number two, yes, the invasion started 2 years ago. But going back a little bit, my theory, it was these caravans of illegals started with Obama
Right.
12 years ago. This didn't start just yesterday. People
No.
forget, but this here caravan of illegals started over with Obama, and they started trickling them in. He was trickling them in. By the way, he was not the deporter of chief Obama. That's a big lie. I hear conservatives even say that. I was already deep diving 10, 12 years ago on that, and I pulled up, thanks to CIS, and uncovered that Obama didn't deport millions of people, as they say. What he did, as the left always do, they cheat. He brought, because there's two ways to remove an illegal, through a return or through a removal. The Custom Border Patrol does returns at the border,
Right.
return, return. ICE and the Enforcement Removal Operation (ERO) does the removal. What Obama did, this clever fuck, he brought ICE down to the border and to work with Custom Border Patrol. And when an illegal crossed the border within 24 hours, he handed him off to ICE, ERO department. And then they said, oh, that's a removal. It's not a removal, it's a return. So he
Right.
did this hundreds of thousands of times. No one talks about this, but I have the receipts for that. But getting
No,
back
that's
to your
good.
question,
Yes, no, that's good though. That's good information, because they always love to spin it, right? And
yeah,
make you
they
think, "Oh
spin
my
it.
gosh, they're doing so great." Okay, so go
Yeah.
ahead.
But getting back to your question, the surge really started bananas in September of 2023. It went off the rails all the
Right.
way to January, where there was millions, and then the Biden regime went to Mexico 3 times without the president. They went 3 times to make a deal with the president of Mexico, saying, "Listen, it's an election year. We got to make Biden look good for election." And then Mexican president said, "We want three things. We want Mexican nationals in America that are not already permanent residents. We want them permanent residents, millions of
Mhm.
Mexicans. We want 40 to 50 billion dollars. All right, and and there was a third thing. I forgot what
And
it
I
was,
can't remember what it was.
but there was a third demand. These were demands, and
Right. Oh
so
yeah.
I'm sure they that because Biden
Oh,
is
that
weak.
well, mhm.
Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I think part of it was that if you don't do this too, then you will see an increase, then we will flood you with it.
Mhm.
So it was like, you better capitulate or you're gonna have serious problems,
Right.
kinda
Exactly.
thing.
And
Mhm.
yeah, exactly. And it's extortion. It's basic
Yeah.
extortion.
Yes.
And then we did. We saw it slow down. I heard stories where the Mexicans, illegals, would go up north, from Tapachula, Mexico, which is south, and then the migrant, they call it the Institute of Migration, is ICE over there. They would
Mm.
bring them back south, like they will bust the military, would bust them back south, trying to keep them under pressure not to go into
Yes.
America. That was going on for the last 6 months. So Biden capitulated. But now I'm starting to see a trickle of increase of illegals here at the center. To answer your question, they're
Yeah.
starting to trickle up in the middle of an election year when it's starting to get hot and heavy. We're starting to see more illegals at the ARC. So that's what
Yeah,
they're for.
interesting, and it's interesting that they have them staying at that center, because I was asking you about hotels or
Mhm.
whatever, like, separately from here, and I think it's so, like, at the center that they created before, it wasn't for them to stay, it was just for them to pass through and kinda
Right.
charge their phone, get some food, and then they would take and transport them to the airport in the charter buses,
Right.
and, now, they're, like I said, they're just dropping them off at Border Patrol, but it's interesting, so Border Patrol is the one that picks them up at the border. I mean, I guess sometimes there would be times where maybe it would be a Damaris bus, like the charter buses, but for the most part, they're picking them up there and then transferring them to the soft-sided facility. So they created a 130,000 square foot processing center for DHS, because they didn't have any place for them to go. So do you know if there's one of those where you're at, where it's like it's a temporary, but it's really like it's a structure. It's almost like a tent
Mhm.
structure.
Well, is
That
that where they get the yellow envelopes? Is that where they get their arrest papers?
that's where they would be processed and get their information. But then when they go to the hotels, they even have their own packets that they give them in order to get on the flight. And then they have like a concierge service. They'll take them
Mm.
to the line and get them through security where they don't need their ID.
Mm. All right. So what's different? I guess maybe similar or different from me is that they come in illegal. Custom Border Patrol hands them off to ICE. That's where they get the biometric ID, eyes checked, and their fingerprints checked to see if they have any criminal record in America, not in their country, right? They could
Right.
be murderers,
Right.
rapists in their countries. No
Yeah.
one knows, no one cares. They just kind of process them. They're just paper pushers at this point, ICE and CBP.
Hmm.
They're babysitters and they're Uber drivers, right?
Yeah.
So that's when they get their arrest papers. Now, there's two things I want to make sure your audience understands. 95% of all these illegals, I think, would be 15 million by the end of the Biden regime, came in outside a port of entry. They came in through the river. They came in through a wall that we couldn't get finished because there was no funding for Trump, right? So that's 95%. The other small percentage, it might be even less than 5%, came in through CBP1, the app.
Hmm.
It started last year in February. The first
Yes.
3 or 4 months, it didn't work because it was inundated with applicants trying to get on. So it
Right.
wasn't even working properly. It started working in August of 2023. That's when you're seeing all these illegals coming through CBP1. It's an unconstitutional app. Congress did not approve it. And by the way, there's when Mayorkas started it, he said it was for because of COVID. He
Right.
wanted emergency entrance for COVID. COVID is there's no more what's that program that expired back in May of last year for COVID?
You mean the
Uh,
Title 42? Not
Title
that.
42, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
He said the app was for Title 42. Well, the
Right.
Title 42 expired May of last year, but we're
Right.
still using. So everything they say, they lie. And
Yes.
also, by the
Well, it's a
way,
way to implement it and then just
right,
have it stay. You know what I
right,
mean?
right. And so far to date, over 400,000 illegal immigrants have come in through our countries through CBP1 to date. I'll even say 500,000. So
Right.
you're telling me out of 15 million, 500,000 are using CBP1 app. That's about right. Now, the paperwork is different. If you're
Right.
coming through CBP1, it doesn't say you were arrested. It says you're an alien. That's it, just an alien. You came and you got credible fear of prosecution, and that you have a court date. The same paperwork as illegal aliens. It just doesn't say you were arrested.
Right.
The majority that were arrested that came in through the river says you were arrested. It has nothing about refugee asylum. So when the left tells
Right.
you, "Oh, these are refugee asylums," no, they're not. I read the paperwork. It's on camera. I've done it 12 times already on camera. It says they've been arrested and then
Nice.
released on their own reconnaissance with no bail. I got arrested at the airport. I had to put down $1,000 bond when I got arrested when I was filming illegals, right? But these illegals get a pass.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what I wanted to
Which
say
is
to you.
ridiculous. You know what I mean? To think that they try and come after us when
Mm.
these people are engaging in that. And so that's cool that you got to see that paperwork because I
Yeah.
haven't been able to find it for CBP1, but just this
Mm.
weekend we went to one of the ports of entry, and in San Ysidro, they're processing them there, and at another port in Calexico. And I was coming up, and it was funny because I was like out of my element. I thought they were going in, and they were coming out, and it's like an in and out, whatever. It depends on how you look at it. You're also coming
Mm.
in and going out of another country, so whatever. But there were
Right.
people sitting out and waiting, and it was like, oh my gosh, what are they waiting for? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of going through it, and I'm like, they look like they're waiting for a bus. And then I was like, oh my gosh, what's that white bus? And I'm all, it's a Damaris bus. Okay, they're coming to pick them up. And I'm like, these have to be the CBP1. And I'm like,
Right.
where are they taking them? Because I'm thinking, if you're still kind of detained, I mean, they were sitting outside. They had been come through that port and had already
I
been
saw that.
processed somewhat, right? But then they take them past this gate, kind of look through their paperwork again, and put them on the bus. And I'm
I saw
thinking,
that.
well, are you going to the airport or are you going to a hotel? So I need to figure out the next stage of that.
Right.
But I thought, I mean, are they still detaining them? I mean, obviously not, because you're saying they're like free to go at that point.
They're free to
You
go
know,
at that point. Once they have those paperwork and they have the I-94 form,
I-94.
I-94 form, they can travel anywhere. These are CBP1 that have the I-94, which is a document that you can use to get even a work permit. We haven't even touched that
Immediately.
yet. Yeah,
Immediately?
well, the way it works is so once they have those yellow documents or yellow envelopes in my center, They can go anywhere in the country. They don't have to stay at the center. Most of them don't have money for transportation, so they're waiting for family and friends to give them donate airline tickets.
Right.
So uh, the I-94 form is filled out, and you know these illegal aliens have to up to 1 year before they could apply for refugee asylum. That's how it works. When they come here with this notice to appear, that's not for asylum, judge. Asylum comes later. That's just to see if they can stay in the country if they have a right case. And I'm gonna put out a
Okay.
report tomorrow. The report is gonna I don't want to say yet, but it was great.
Yeah, that's
I'll
okay.
put a post tomorrow on how
Yeah.
many of these asylum seekers get to approve to stay. You're gonna bug out on how many say yes, you can stay. These judges approve them. It's sad to see, but then at that point, then they have to wait 180 days. Once they have their asylum judge says yes, they have to wait 180 days to apply for a work permit. And so it's a long way for these people, and that's why they get frustrated and started doing illegal stuff, because they don't want
Well,
to wait
yeah.
2 years, 3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
by the
and
way,
the
to
list.
see an asylum judge, it's years. I didn't tell you that, but it's usually
Right.
8 years. They're backed up with 4 million applicants cases, 4 million with
Wow.
600 judges. 600, Mike. This is DOJ judges. This is not ICE judge. These are DOJ, Department of Justice judges. So you go down this rabbit hole, it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Well,
Not
and
good,
they
man.
just keep piling it up, you know what I mean? And then it
Yeah.
makes it so that the people that actually want to cross legally, because I actually talked to somebody who said they attempted to cross the right way or come the right way, and they were
Right.
denied repeatedly. So he
Hmm.
decided to just do it in this manner, because he was
You,
like,
you know?
I mean, no, just by crossing the wall.
Okay. Oh yeah. So I met those illegals. Think about it. If you're in Mexico and you're a young woman, I interviewed a young woman. She was sexually assaulted waiting. She said, "I can't wait." That's why she crossed the river illegally because they were assaulting her. And this is the police. This is the Mexican police and the cartel. The Mexican
Hmm.
police is the worst out of the worst. When
Yeah.
I interview them, they extort them. They steal their phones. She got $2,000 stolen from her. She was broke by the time she came into America
Yeah.
you know. And so, yeah, these people don't want to wait 6 months. What do they do when they wait 6 months? They're waiting right now in Matamoros, Monterrey, which is a major metropolitan city, and the city of Mexico, which is the capital. That's a major capital city. All these illegals are sitting there for 6 to 8 months waiting for their numbers to be called, and they have, some of them try to get jobs. Who knows what
Right.
their life is like? I'm not feeling sorry for them because what they're doing is illegal, but
Well, and they put
it's
themselves
just
into that
ridiculous.
situation as well, don't you think? I mean,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
when I see these people, and now I need to be more cautious because I'm almost wondering if these people are really the kids of the people coming,
mm,
because they'll come and in Hakumba where a lot of them cross, it's really cold at night and it's
mm,
really windy, and then it gets really hot during the day,
mm,
and they'll be going like they'll be asking me, I mean, do you have anything for the kids? And it's like, I don't even know why you brought them through here right now. And it's like, I feel
mm.
like I'm more concerned about these children than you are. So then I start to go, well, maybe they're not even your kids, because I don't think anybody that loved their child would put them through that. But if it's a monetary type of gain thing and they're just coming to sell them or bring them across, you wouldn't really care. You know what I mean? Because you're
But
like, I'm just looking to get the money.
something you may want to ask them, which I do all the time, is ask me if they did a DNA test on them, swab test.
Right.
It's called in Spanish. It's called DNA. It's just like one word, DNA, which means
Okay.
DNA. DNA.
Right.
Try to write that down. DNA. So surprisingly, in my sector, and I learned through a retired ICE director deputy. He said the reason some sectors have it, some don't, is because the contracts are still valid with these third-party vendors. And so in my sector, in Piedras Negras, which is Eagle Pass, Texas, which is the majority where they come from, I get all just the poor, the poor. I don't get Arabs, I don't get Chinese, I don't get Africans. All I get is Central and South American poor family units. A lot
Interesting.
of, and they're telling me, yeah, they're still doing swab tests. The kid gets swabbed, the mother gets swabbed, even sometimes the father gets swabbed. And I could just look at them and say, yeah, that's the child. They got the same eyes, the same color hair, blah, blah, blah. So thank God, right? Now,
Yeah.
there have been occasions where I saw funny stuff going on, like, that's not your kid, man. And they just shuffle them off into a weighted car, never to be seen again. I've seen
Right.
that plenty of times too. But for the most part, they're being swab tested in Eagle Pass. And that's because the contract is still open. And they're getting GPS ankle bracelets. That's another thing. I said, why
All
did
of
you get a
them?
GPS? No, no. So certain
Just
people,
some of them, right? Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. I've seen that too.
And I asked them, why did you get? Are you a criminal in your country? Like I get in
Right.
their faces and ask them. They're like, no, I'm not a criminal. I swear to God, and I believe them. I said, well, you have a criminal's record here in America? No. And I said, how come you did and he didn't? And they will look
Right.
at each other and they go, it's just a lottery, not a. It's a bad lotto. It's just random. It's just random. It's really
Selectively
weird.
do it? Weird.
Yeah.
See, I think they do that here too, because I mean, you look and it's like, why would one and not the other? And then I had one guy
Mm,
tell me, which he didn't know, but he's like, they only do it on the weekends, or no, they don't do it on the
mm,
weekends. And I'm like, that's not true because I see them all the time, and it's few and far between. But there are
mm.
some with them, and they like to hide it as well
Yeah.
because obviously that doesn't look good. But
Yeah.
it's interesting to hear you talk about the different people that are coming through on your
Mm,
side.
right.
And that makes me wonder, like, are they just sending them straight to funnel up into Texas, those type of people where they're just more poor and they're,
Yeah.
whatever. But like here we have a plethora of them. Like they're
Mm,
Chinese, they're Guatemalan, they're
mm.
um, Turkish,
African.
they are, Muslim. It's like there's such
Yeah.
a vast majority or like a variety of
Hmm.
them. So it's interesting to hear you talk like that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wonder what that's about.
Well, the cartel runs the routes. So the
Right.
cartel, once they come up from Tapachula, they go, okay, what category are you in? You're going to be going this route, that route, this route. It's all organized. We'll go into El Chapo. El Chapo is the
Yeah.
SAR on the
Let's hear.
border. I did a post
Right.
about El Chapo
Yeah,
last week.
I know.
So
I know,
we'll
and I
talk
I
about
did
that.
your poll, and I was like, "That's right. It's not Kamala."
Exactly. So they run the routes. Of course, remember, that train of death, that train of death that they
Yeah.
use, that they stayed on top. That train literally goes within 100 yards of my border,
Oh,
100
wow.
yards. So that's the last stop, and so
Yeah.
that's why we get all the poor because they don't have $10,000 to give to cartels like the Chinese do.
Right.
So that's where we get the poor of the poor that
Yeah.
don't have any money. And so, yeah, I want to talk about Facebook. I just did a post about Facebook having groups about how to play the system. We could talk about El Chapo, and the last thing I want to talk about is the work permits um, that I uncovered. I interviewed the
Yes.
illegal, and he was saying, "Oh, I'm so excited! I'm going to get my work permit within, real soon." I said, "You're not going to get a work permit until you go for a refugee asylum, and that's if they approve you in 6 years or so." And he's like, "No, I already got the document." I said, "Show it to me." He pulls out a form. The form, this is just recently. It
Right.
says, "We're going to take your mug shot at the border. Just you've been here 2 days. We're going to get your mug shot, your biometric shot, and we're going to use that picture with your permission for a work permit." It's
What?
in black and
Like,
white.
they're like, "We're just gonna get you in and out. We're good." Well, that's why even with Biden going like, "We're gonna process them quicker so that we can get them out quicker if they're bad." And it's like,
Right.
no, you just want to facilitate more and more of it.
Yep.
You don't want to do anything to stop it.
Well, that's the new program they just announced Thursday last week.
Yeah.
Did you see that
I know.
post?
Yeah.
They're gonna fast track military age male men.
Where did you find that? So that's what I was looking for because I'm like, in the document I'm reading, it said certain of people or whatever in their
Well, it's
DHS
adult.
document. So it's like, hello, I mean, who else would it be?
It's adult. It could be
Yeah,
women, but how
adults.
many
Yeah,
women come
certain
alone?
adults.
How many women come alone? Very little. It's
Very
mostly
few.
men. Hello.
Yes,
So now they're
yes.
gonna fast track to these illegals in blue cities, with probably judges that are activist judges,
Mhm.
and they're all going to get approved, and they're all going to get work permits. Which the work permit is a government ID. Guess what? You can use that to vote. At the end of the day,
Yeah,
that's
right?
that's the ultimate goal, right?
And all these NGOs are working towards that, right? They're, like, working towards even going and working the polls and stuff to make sure that
Mhm.
they can go in and get them in there. So, it's
Yeah.
kinda that's why I need to look at, through our registrar to see what NGOs they
Mhm.
engage with and contract
Right.
with because it will kind of lead you to there. Even
Mhm.
like, so is your state, so in our county, I mean, your county or whatever, our county is taking $5 million a year and they spend it on their criminal cases. So if they commit
Mhm.
a crime, they get basically, money to be defended. And they were claiming that, oh, this will help them get deported easier. And I'm like, no,
Mhm.
it won't. It actually keeps them in when they committed a crime. What are you talking about? Like they always try and
Mhm.
make it something totally different. Like that's not a cow. It's an elephant. I mean, and
Yeah.
you're like, no, I know that that's not, but as long as they keep telling you and
Yeah.
people just buy it. So
Mhm.
are they spending money for their criminal defense as well in your area?
I
Or do you
have not
know?
seen any. I know
Yeah.
there is an NGO that had got millions of dollars. I think like $2 million 2 years ago, a million for the same thing you're just saying. I haven't really investigated since then. But since we're on the topic of lawyers,
Yeah.
the American Lawyer Association is one of the largest in NGOs that have received money. I have to look at how much they received. I have to find out where I can find that. But in every document that these illegals have in those yellow envelopes, at the
Hmm.
last pages is pro bono lawyers. It's 3 or 4 pages on the county you're going to your sponsor if you have a sponsor.
Right.
All these are pro bono lawyers, man, and yeah, they get paid millions of dollars too.
It's crazy. So keep going
So
about what you wanted to talk about. I know you had some other
yeah,
things.
El Chapo, he has
Yes.
works now. There, he didn't make an official statement. Hello, he's in jail, in federal prison in
For
Colorado.
now.
But they know how to. He knows how to communicate. He still runs the show. Him and his three
Of course.
sons, they're
He's running
untouchable.
that prison.
Right? It probably
I'm
is right.
sure.
So
Yeah.
he's word is word is that he's put out a message to the U.S. troops at the border and then to the Biden regime is you better get me out of jail. He's doing a lifetime stint, right? He wants extradition back to Mexico, and these guys they're smart. They know what they're doing. This is the
Hmm.
election year. They know how to manage leverage their position. Or
Yes.
he says, if we don't do that, we're going to create havoc on the border with our military men, and they got military weapons. These cartels, and I can
Right.
see all the families coming together and creating havoc at the border. So that's something to be really considered and watch because people are going to get killed, man.
I
And they're
know.
going to use these illegals as shields and as useful idiots. So that's something to talk about. No one's talking about El Chapo and
Mm-mm.
his ultimatum. It's basically an ultimatum he's making
Right.
to both Mexico and America. And so there's that.
Right. No, but that's crazy. I mean, I think people don't understand, I mean, and this is the way the world works, really, though. If you think about it, all these, like, elites or whatever you want to call them, they play these games, and it's like a power struggle or whatever. And they like, blackmail and extort each other just to get stuff done. But there's so much corruption in all of these governments. I mean, I think this is a way to take down America. I know that, like, that's one of the, like, when they want their new world order, we can't be the main strength, right? So they have to take us out from within. So do you think that that's part of this, and that maybe they want a civil war?
Who's the cartel?
Well, I mean, yeah, no, or just the elites, the people that pretend to
Right.
run this stuff.
Yeah. There
So
is
they're
the
part of it, I guess.
cabal. There is the
Yeah.
cabal, and
Right.
if you haven't realized that now, you're sleeping under a rock.
Yes.
And it's all these elites, it's all these NGOs, it's all these people that think they know better for you. It's all a money grub, but it's also ideological. These are people that believe in this utopia of, like you said earlier, open borders, and
Yeah.
kumbaya doesn't work that way in the real world.
No.
And this is what we're fighting. This is what Audra and me are fighting. We do this with our own time, and we don't get paid for this. We have no major
That's right.
sponsors, but there are people that rely on our news and your news, Audra, on the truth, and that's what we do. A famous guy named, he's not famous, but he's a former Texas DPS, Department of Public Safety captain. His name is Jason Jones. He's a great man, one of our heroes, my hero. He's the number one guy saying we should make the Mexican cartel a terrorist organization, and I agree 100% with him. And he said one time, because I was trying to figure out why am I here at 2 o'clock in the morning at the ARC? Why am I here? No, this doesn't
Right.
make. And he said, you need to illuminate in order to eliminate. And when he said that, illuminate with my camera,
Right.
this $1,000 phone, you illuminate, you embarrass your politicians with this phone. You bring light to evil with this phone. And
Yeah.
that's when I clicked, it clicked to me. Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm illuminating to eliminate. And now
That's
I got
right.
like the Attorney General of Texas, Mr. Ken Paxton, who may be the AG for Trump. That's breaking
I
news.
know. I saw that.
He follows my shit. He follows
Nice.
my posts. And
That's great.
so, and last thing before we end this here live here is my last post. I was debating with the illegals at the center, and I told them in their faces, "There's a new sheriff in town coming in November. He's going to call me. I'm going to call him. We're going to communicate. He's going to deputize me
Really?
here, and I am going to take each one personally and deport you back to Mexico. Every one of you, and I'll do it for free."
Right.
Their mouths drops. And they're
They're
like,
like,
"Excuse
"What?"
me, we're already here. I don't care. You're here illegally. CBP1 or no CBP1
Right,
app. You're getting the fuck out, and I'm gonna be the one taking you out. So get
right.
ready. There's a new sheriff in town."
I
And
love that.
when I walked away, they were calling me racist. So I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
I'll wear it as a badge of honor. I'll be a racist for you.
I mean, if that's what it is to, wanna preserve what, they're destroying and, I mean, that's the thing too, and what I found they're all like all the people here, they're just saying that it's like they're not asking them if they're seeking asylum. They're
Mhm.
just doing it under that umbrella, just,
Yeah,
saying that that's what it is, and so it's
it's
ridiculous to think that that many people and I think, "How many people can come on? Do we need is it 7 billion? Like, do you just want the billions of people and we're just gonna house them all and take care of them?"
and that's
I
what I
mean,
told them. Yeah,
it's so ridiculous because it's so blatant and obvious,
yeah,
and it's a slap in the face, and so do
yeah.
you have, like are the when because I saw you with the police, and are they most of the time nice with you and, like, they understand what you're doing? Do they appreciate it at all, or do
Hmm.
they just give you a hard time always?
90% of them give me a hard time. The one thing I don't look forward to when I go there is not the illegals. I mean, I can communicate with them. They're
Right,
for the most part nice for me, except when I get in their face and ask them, "Are you part of the gang in Venezuela, Tren de
right,
Aragua?" And they
right.
don't they don't take that too kindly to me.
They
But
didn't.
I'm
I was
trying to
like,
find the
"Uh-oh."
truth. Yeah, I get in their faces and ask them because they got tattoos and everything, so they probably lie to me.
Right.
But no, it's the NGOs. The NGOs. They call me names. They give me the middle finger. They try to firebomb my Cadillac last year in the middle of the night. The police arrested me numbers of times. I've been detained. I've been handcuffed. I can't even count how many times. To be honest with you, I lost count
Yeah.
at the center and at the airport. So, and of course, I was booked. I was processed for uh, being in jail in November for recording in a public airport. That happened in
No
November.
way.
Yeah, that's been.
Recording in it because it's legal to do.
Well,
How
they
would
said it was
they
private, and then they handcuffed me and processed me. I was shackled for 26 hours in county jail.
and do they charge you at the end of
They,
that, or
they
they
charged
didn't?
me for criminal trespassing on private property. I had a court case Valentine's Day, February 14th this year. Case was dismissed under lack of evidence. Now I can
Oh,
go
that's
back to
good.
the airport, which is why you're seeing me back at the airport. I couldn't be there for
Good.
6 months. I would have gone to jail. So this is the world we live in. The world is upside down.
It
And
is.
so,
It is, and it's sad to see, but I'm so thankful for what you're doing and just how much you have continued to uncover, and it's funny how things kinda get thrown in your lap, but it's good, right? Like, when that happens, I mean, you think you're gonna move from one place to another and it's gonna be better, and you're like, "Oh, dang it, what?" But it kinda shows you, like, this was your, like, calling ground, and I'm just
yeah,
really, I feel blessed to, now be in touch with you and to be
mhm,
able to share things and work
yeah,
together. It would be cool if we could, you could come out here, I could go out there, we could,
that'd be cool.
experience each other's areas because it's
Right.
way different. I mean,
Love
especially
that.
when you're talking about the wall, how it's like non-existent where you're at. And then even though it exists here, they're getting around it. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like,
It's ridiculous.
I mean,
Uh,
and
last thing,
go ahead.
last thing before I have to end it.
Yeah.
Um,
I know you have
Shout
another
out to
interview.
Ryan Mata. Shout out to
Yes.
JJ Cartel. They're doing a documentary that's going to come out hopefully end of this year in fall. It's called Treason. This is
Yes.
Treason. I've been
Yeah.
communicating with them. Ryan's a good friend of mine.
Yes.
JJ, you were on.
Yeah.
You may be on the documentary. They're going to
Yeah.
interview me next week here in San Antonio.
Nice. Good.
So kudos to those guys, right? Because they're
Yes.
doing God's work as well.
Yes.
Um,
Amen.
and the last thing before I'll end is if you can follow me on X, it's my name,
Yes,
Hernando
please.
Arce, just the way it sees in the bottom there. I have a Give Send Go set up because I don't have no sponsors. I don't have no product I'm selling. I have nothing. All I have is my phone and my app on the phone that lets me edit these videos for you, my followers. Who I have the best followers in the world. They share my stuff like tremendously, and they give me hearts, and I read every comment. And that's where I get a lot of my intel. So if you could please donate to my Give Send Go, I would appreciate it. To help me with my legal fund because I am planning to sue the city of San Antonio for my
Good.
unlawful arrest at the airport, and
Good.
I just need to buy some equipment, and et cetera, et cetera. You know how it is.
Yes. Yes.
So thank you
So
for your
what is
time.
that
Thank you
Give
for your
Send Go? Is
time.
it just your name? I'm sorry. Did you already say it? I feel like I missed that. What did you
No, I didn't
share it?
say it. It's just
Yeah.
basically Give Send Go, and then just
Oh
put
yeah.
/ Hernando Arce,
Okay.
and it'll pop up.
Wonderful. Yeah. So it's so important.
Okay.
Please support him. Please follow him on X and just continue to stay abreast of what he's doing. So important. I just thank you so much for joining us, and would love to have you on again as we continue to uncover this stinking border machine that we find ourselves just thrusted into. And so God bless you on your journey, and may he just keep you and strengthen you and give you all of the tools that you need. Because I know he lays stuff in our lap, and that's what's so great. It's like you don't even really have to look. It just kind of like falls right there, and it's like, oh, sweet. So good luck on your next interview, and I look forward to talking to you soon. So thank you guys for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Join me next time where I bring you more truth, love, light, and all of the good things. God bless you guys. Thank you.